It being 1 o'clock on the 12th of October, call to order the Finance Committee meeting for the purposes of, I think, eliminating any technical amendments. But before we begin, is there any comment, public comment that people want to make? Seeing none. I don't think we have any minutes to approve, so is there anything? I'm looking over to the town's brain trust. We're out at the town's brain trust. Did we get our AAA rating, or I saw Moody's did a AA1?
We're still waiting. Supposed to be at some point today.
Today, okay.
We'll get official notification of it.
Yeah. So just by way of background, the town entertained Standard & Poor's last week. Very nice presentation done by the folks from the town on to the analysts from Standard & Poor's to have them. They haven't rated our debt before, have they?
No, they haven't. First time, so.
Yeah. So nice presentation by Libby, Brian, and the rest of the folks from the town. Do we have anything that needs to be discussed?
We have one technical one, and you haven't even seen it. We just dealt with it a few minutes ago. It's very, very tiny. It's in Article 3, on page 34, with Article 3 motions. It's a correction to a parcel. You look at that page, there's a chart there, and there's a shaded parcel. That's something 54R NCR. The parcel above that should say 54, not 54R. So the R needs to be in there.
So the R is standing for rear.
I don't know. Andrew gave you some. Yeah, it might be that. So there's already an R.
Does any, Stephen, go ahead.
Well, there's 54R, and then above it is 54R, and then above it is 54. So we're going to remove the duplicate 54R and make a duplicate 54.
I think
It's 96 and 86.
But they have the same tax address?
same physical address, number of address. I asked the same question.
And who's it coming? Who's this?
Coming from Andrew. It sounded to me like there was a technical map correction. But when the parcels were compiled, there was a
You're our planning expert here.
Yeah, it matches the GIS. We've got two 54s, but only one 54R. Seems to me this should be 56 because we go to 58 afterward. But
So what are we doing? We're not taking anything out, are we? We're looking at a GIS map.
so we're just, this one is identified as 54R.
Right.
And we're just changing it to 54, but leaving this as 54 when logically that should be 56. But if that's not how.
So we're going to have 54 and 54?
Yeah.
There are two different parcels.
These will be 54 and 54, yeah.
But aren't they three separate parcels?
Yep. So these two are both described as 54R.
Mm-hmm.
This one's 54. We're going to leave that one. Change this one just to 54. So we'll have two 54s.
So the parcel.
Seems
Yeah.
to me this
It's
should be
different.
56, but it's not how they
But the
describe
number
it.
is the same.
Because it goes 54,
Well, no, you
54,
got-
58.
Yeah.
You got the 3 and one's parcel 98. So then but then you get 96, 98. Yeah. So if you get rid of that R, it's
So
still
this
different.
one,
96.
it's this one with that
Yeah.
ends in parcel 98. We're going to change that to 54.
Yeah, you got two 54
That
Rs.
is,
And the question you're saying, they're talking about getting rid of.
sorry, that ends in-
Yeah, but then there'd be two 54s.
So we're changing this one to
different
54.
parcels.
Yeah, yeah, I understand that.
So nothing wrong with that. No, I don't, that's right.
Matches the map, I guess.
Everybody know what's going on? Probably not.
No.
I think so.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yep.
Just what happened to number 56 on the street, but it's not for us to discuss.
Anybody want to make a motion to accept the technical change?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You have your technical amendment? Or Andrew does? Anything else?
As far as I know, that's it. The voter's guide is in the final stages of production. The warrants are here. Did anybody get those in the mail?
Yes.
Yep.
Great. So if you haven't got it yet, you should be getting it. And then the other is also are there any other prep things? I've been meaning to do a list of, for the town articles, who might be able to speak from the FinCom or BLS. And I'll get that out to you, David.
Okay.
Today or tomorrow morning. Besides that, I guess our only issue might be the quorum. And as of today, how many members are voting on it?
Well, we got 2 new registrations at the school yesterday.
Just roughly.
12. So we're over 9,000 votes.
Okay, so
And you need how many,
we
Catherine?
needed 5% of the population.
That's a lot.
That's a lot, 450 plus. And what happens if we don't end up with enough, end up with a quorum? Anything that needs appropriation doesn't get acted on?
John, we continue until we could continue to another night.
You can do that, yes.
Or we want to get a quorum, or we just
Dissolve.
dissolve and call another one, or we,
Wait till the spring.
yes.
Have we ever had this happen before?
Sarah usually suspends the no cell phone rule.
I'm sorry?
Sarah usually suspends the no cell phone rule, and everybody gets on their cell phones and calls their friends for chicken breast.
I didn't know that was a rule.
That's what I'd call.
If we extend to a further night, does it have to be the next night?
No, but then we're going to be running up against a situation over there.
It's kind of a big situation.
With the presidential
Election, yeah.
Oh, I see.
We kind of want to.
I've heard about that.
Well, Sarah will be here shortly, so.
I didn't know this was going to take
So long?
As long as we have town council here, I want to ask about Article 4.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. John, can you clarify what is the ownership structure of the Academy Hill School? Does the lessee own the property, own the improvements, and we own the real estate? Or does the town, in fact, own the improvements and the land?
It was a ground lease that was authorized. I'm going to have you just take a look at this.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm sorry. Let me just stare.
Well, while we're doing that, and since discussion of our next meeting is on the agenda, 5:45 on Monday evening, and since we probably won't have a lot of time to discuss the meeting after that, I think the next, I'll work to with Libby to try to get a draft of our meetings for the season together for comment and make sure it's going to work. But I think our next set of meetings is probably when we get the citizen articles for town meeting, which I think is sometime right before Thanksgiving or right after Thanksgiving. I can't quite remember the schedule, but it's right.
I think it's the first or second week of December, once the articles have been certified.
Right.
I'll get that.
No, you've already sent a schedule, and I just don't have it off the top of my head. But
And the thing that's not on there is all the budget numbers.
yeah. Well, I want to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Someone else going to send you the detail.
Okay. I think John has the answer.
John thinks he has the answer. So it was a ground lease, but the lease provides that the tenant can construct improvements, including buildings. And during the term of the lease, the tenant owns the improvements, but on termination of the lease, it reverts to the improvements.
So if this lease wasn't extended, or if this lease is extended, we relinquish ownership for a further 20 years
Of the building.
of the building, right?
Yeah, but of course, you also have even if that wasn't the case, you still have an enforceable lease
For a certain
for the
number.
extended term. So I'm not sure what the concern is.
Well, the concern is that if we, as per the request from the lessee, if we extend the lease under the same terms, the town stands to benefit $20. So the concern is that's not an appropriate sum of money. You know, if in my research in 1985, the year before this lease was I guess it was 1980 is this lease. So 1979, there was an effort made to request from town meeting appropriation of some large sum of money for the upfit of the building so that it would be suitable for residential use. Town meeting didn't approve that money, so the next year it was put out to bid for operators who would, for $1 a year, be willing to take on the project and put in their own money to fix up the building. So it made sense, I think, at the time. You know, we didn't want to put up the money, so we set up this advantageous lease. Now that and that's a good situation for a landlord, because eventually you get back the improved property. If we extend the lease for $20, we never realize that benefit of getting back the improved property.
Yeah, I think, though, the issue will become, because I understand they want to make improvements, and Academy Hill's in pretty tough shape. It's going to be a trade-off between whether they can recapture their investment over the time horizon or not, and presumably if they, this is conjecture, so perhaps I shouldn't go there, but one concern would be that they don't make the improvements to Academy Hill.
But the lease requires that they do.
But they already made them.
Right, but it requires that they maintain the building in a way that it services the purpose for which they received the lease in the first place. I mean...
So it becomes... it would become an enforcement.
They've got 22 apartments, some market rate, some subsidized, and even if they were all subsidized, that's over $200,000 a year in gross revenue. That's a fair amount of money for a property that is on the Nantucket. Well, it's owned by the town, so they don't pay any real estate taxes on it. They pay $1 a year in rent. In fact, they've prepaid it, so they have zero cost to run the building or to own the building. It seems to me that we could negotiate a better lease at the termination of this deal, or at least now. And I understand this is just an authorization for the Board of Selectmen to enter, to discuss extending the lease. But I think maybe there should be a comment or a letter or something from us that says extending the lease under the same terms is not advisable.
So you think we should be getting more money from the rent, basically, just it's a money issue versus just a...
Right. I think the use of the property is appropriate, and I would like to see it continue, but I think we could be getting a whole lot more money. I mean, maybe it should be tied to some percentage of their gross receipts, which is, now something that the town looks into with all of their leases. I think it might be appropriate
Maybe
here
we
also.
need to do a little more digging into that, because I think they have some substantial outstanding debt. We're also trying to get through some of the research to refinance that. One of the principals of the management company died, and the state was in probate for a long time, and it's only just, I guess, can be resolved. But the reason they're going to Mass Housing Finance Agency, the reason why they do this lease extension is because they need to refinance their debt or something like that.
Right. Well, it says they want to refinance debt, and it makes sense that they would carry some debt anyway. I mean, especially in this climate, you'd want to pile up as much as you can to do your improvements. But without the ability to request to see their finances, we don't know. And it stands to reason that all these years later, after most of their capital improvements are complete, this is a for-profit enterprise that's running this business, and they want to continue to do it. There must be a reason for that. And the town, should be able to realize at least part of the gain that they're getting from refinancing their debt, in my opinion.
So the letter that they sent indicated that currently they're in default. And what's being proposed is that Mass Housing refinance the debt. But in order to do that, they're requiring an extension. But I don't believe we have any more information living than what was represented to us.
No, I'm sure we can ask.
Yeah, well, that would all be part of, if this were to pass town meeting, then that would be up to the selectmen to negotiate. I mean, if you're going to extend the lease, you can certainly revise the terms of the lease, including the payment terms. I don't know what the selectmen want to do in that regard, but that certainly would be an option.
It seems to me this is new information about the lease. When we made our vote, we were under the misconception that the lessee owned the improvements.
Well, the lease says they do own the improvements.
Right, but we own them at the end of the lease. And I think that's a material difference. I think the presumption was nobody else is going to want this lease anyway. Why not extend it? They own the improvements, so nobody else is going to bid. We're going, if this article passes, we're going to go ask the state for special consideration to not have to put out an RFP to extend this lease. And I think we should we should recommend that the Board of Selectmen take a hard look at the terms of the renegotiated lease for these reasons.
Was that required, or was the lease, was there an option to extend the lease?
There's an option to purchase. Hold on a second. The town holds the option that at any time during the term of this lease, landlord shall receive from any third party an acceptable bona fide offer to purchase the whole or any part of the demised premises, and shall submit a written copy of such offer to the tenant, giving the tenant 30 days within which to elect to use such offer. So it's triggered. The option to purchase, which is the tenant's option, but it has to be triggered by a receipt by the town for a bona fide offer. and then I get to manage it.
So it doesn't automatically rescind to the town at the end of the lease term?
Well, what it says, I'll read you the language. I apologize, I wasn't
No.
aware that this was, it says, on the last day of the term of this lease, tenant shall quit and surrender the demised premises and the buildings and permanent improvements that may are, room cleaning and repair, then condition of repair. So I interpret that language to mean at the end of the term, the town takes possession of the ownership.
And is there a default provision in the lease, John?
This is like my real estate bar example. I'm sure there is. Default, page 20. Any material default by tenant continues for more than 60 days after written notice from the landlord. Landlord shall have the right to bring appropriate legal proceedings for the enforcement of its rights hereunder, including enforcement by means of specific performance and other equitable remedies, but does not preclude the right of the landlord to terminate this lease or to evict tenant from the demised premises. So the answer is yes.
But the default that they're currently in is between a private
I
party and
read that-
private party and a lender.
Yeah, that's what I interpreted
Yeah.
that, to be, not in default. So that would not, well. Typically, what these kinds of leases say, that if there was a default on a mortgage, then the mortgagee can step in and
Perform, yeah, and cure it.
which I think is what this says. Maybe perform any act required by the tenant may be performed by any mortgagee or assignee or sublessee of tenant, and shall be acceptable as tenant's act by the landlord. So that's pretty typical language.
So, Stephen, what would you like to propose for the consideration of the committee as it relates to this?
Initially, I had intended to ask somebody who voted in the majority to make a motion to reconsider. Given that all this article is an authorization for the Board of Selectmen to enter into negotiations, I don't think that's necessary. But I would ask, I don't know if we have to follow the same process, but I would ask if the board would consider making taking some action to inform the Board of Selectmen of our concerns, so at least they're aware of them going into the negotiations with the lessee.
That sound like yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Mr. Chairman, do you have another meeting before town meeting?
15 minutes before?
15 minutes before the start of town meeting.
I'm a little bit concerned about, was this on the agenda for tonight?
No.
Okay, so if the chair determines that this was not reasonably anticipated at the time that the agenda was posted, then you can proceed with the discussion. But you have to make that determination. Otherwise, it should be not put on an agenda for future.
Right. I mean, I would say it wasn't reasonably anticipated. I mean, looking at what was on the agenda, it was going to be a technical amendment. I don't, I need perhaps some guidance here. I don't think that we're asking to change. Stephen's not asking for a reconsideration of
Right,
what
I don't
we
want to
did.
change our vote. I don't think that's necessary, but if the rest of the committee agrees, then I think we should, like I said, take some action to make the Board of Selectmen aware of these issues.
When is your next meeting? I would prefer, if you will, to protect the town's interest, that if you're not going to change your vote to recommend this article, that you place this on an agenda for a future meeting, and you can vote at that time. time. It can be right before. It can be at the 15-minute meeting before town meeting, or it could be at your next regular.
I think all we were considering doing was writing, would be a letter to the selectmen urging them in their consideration, and you feel that's best taken up in another meeting where it's...
I actually do.
Okay.
I actually do, and you know, if you want to have someone, and they could see, draft something up in terms of what your concerns are, and then you can vote on that at your next meeting. That's what I would.
Okay. Well, now we need to put it on our agenda, and we'll have to decide whether... I'm a little reluctant to do it ahead of town meeting, just because we've agreed that we're not going to take up substantive issues ahead of town meeting, so, or the 15 or 20 minutes ahead of town meeting. So.
I can assure you this is not going to get executed.
I suspect that's the case.
Even if it passes down.
Yeah. Is that okay with you, Stephen?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
That's the right way.
All right. Anything else? Maybe we just adjourn,
Right.
save ourselves from a further discussion. There is going to be a meeting at 2:00 with the moderator. I don't think we are, as a committee, need to be part of it. I do, but as a committee, I mean, I think you're welcome to stay, and if we have a quorum, then we'll keep our meeting in session so that we're clean. So, is there anybody planning on staying for the moderators meeting?
Well, she said that, I'm not sure.
Right.
Do you want us here?
You can do whatever you want.
I have other things to do.
I mean, it's
No.
it doesn't. I don't think there's going to be,
Nothing earth-shattering.
No, I think we're going to ask the usual questions. So anyway,
You'll get the usual answers.
of course. So if I can have at least 2 people say they're not going to stay, then we can adjourn. If we don't have 2 people, then I will keep the meeting open.
You got it.
Okay. All right. In which case, is there anything else to come before this distinguished board of committee that we can talk about? A motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second?
Second.
The meeting is adjourned at 1:29. Thank you very much. We'll see you Monday, 5:45.